Hi guys, it's Jim Bounds at Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and this video is labeled a final, and it is, and I want to cover a lot of the takeaways on some of the other videos and throw some other little nuggets in there too. So some of the guys saying, oh, he doesn't get to the point and all this stuff. Well, on this one, relax, sit back, you may hear something. If not, maybe it's some good entertainment. I'm today in the back building shop. As you can see here, I got down to the bench. I've got my polisher, grinder, all my tools set up, and we'll be doing videos from here. Things like, well, hang on, let me show you. Stay right there. How about talking about air ride system? I have a complete air ride system. Not these. Got a complete air ride system here that we can talk about and talk about where the leaks are. And oh, look at that. The relay is fried. We can talk about all that stuff. So my guess is that we'll be doing a lot more videos out here. All right, so let's get down to business here. And what we're talking about is the final on the road trip to Oakton, Virginia from Castleberry, which is near Altamont Springs, Florida, in this machine. Now, there'll be pictures at the bottom of this video. And by the way, here's a little nugget. At the end of this video, and after you read all the verbiage, which is important, okay, read that stuff. At the bottom of that, you'll see tags, T-A-G-S, tags. And there could be 2 or 3 different names in there. Well, if you hit, say, the tag on this one is going to be Roadtrip Oakton, possibly. It'll be in a little box. Hit that, and all of the pertaining videos that I did about this Oakton trip will all be lined up for you. Yeah, the database does that for you. Okay, so use that. Take a look at that. Right? So what we're talking about now, and again, the pictures are at the bottom, is this coach. Now, a little history of this coach. I've known it through 2 owners over at least 20 years. The first guy lived in Wisconsin. He was a dairy farmer. And every spring, they winterized it. Him and the ranch hands or whatever, farm hands, winterized it. And as soon as it got warm enough to get it out, he'd come on down to Florida to the Keys. He had a place in the Keys. So he'd use it down here, and then he'd go home. He'd leave it with me maybe or whatever. And over the years, I maintained it for him. And then he finally actually got sick down here in Florida, had to leave it here, and I went and recovered it over in the Lakeland area for him. So, you know, over the years, I've known this coach, and the guy that had it recently, Stuart, did a great job in maintaining it over the years. He did not have it covered, and you saw what happened. It got fungus covered in Florida, but nothing that a pressure washer couldn't blow off. And the rails were so sealed that it did not leak. I'll have you know, with a 1300 psi pressure washer on the roof and the rails. It is possible. So this coach had been sitting for 3 years. New owner came up in Oakton, Virginia. He's got a young family. You'll see about that later. So he's going to fly down with his brother Bob, and we're going to take this thing back, right? So part of the lesson here is we want to have all of our parts because the theory is that he didn't have me. That he had to fly in, and TSA is not going to let him take a bunch of tools and parts and stuff. So when he gets on the ground, he's got to what? Get parts, and get the tools he needs to drive it back. To be safe, at least to be safe. Or you can just roll the dice and see how close you can get. Either way. So the coach, hang on a second. The coach was in pretty darn good shape, but the battery was shot. As if you remember before, we were talking about the battery. It still had a single battery in the front, so the battery was shot. Put a new battery in it. We put a new, or a rebuilt, remanufactured alternator, a one-wire alternator. You guys have probably read about that. It solves so many problems. The more I think about it, really, guys, I really would like you to go and investigate further. There was a Facebook comment on, I did a video about this recently. He said, "I'm not sold." Well, it's a good thing that I'm not selling anything, because you couldn't buy it. I'm giving you information, and it's not me. The information about a one-wire alternator is common knowledge to starter alternator rebuilders. I'm not making any of this stuff up. If you the two gentlemen that I rely upon, two alternator rebuilder guys that absolutely know what they're doing, and those are the folks that I'm going to rely on. I don't want you to rely on me. You want to rely on these guys. Okay? If you see their shop, oh, it got out of sequence. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I had this in better sequence. But if you see their shop, it's unbelievable the amount of knowledge and years that are built up into that. So the one-wire alternator is exactly what we did. Now you say, well, why did I just go ahead and do it? Because it did have a charge. I mean, it was charging when I went to it. Well, why? 50% of the coaches I've driven back like this so far, the alternator has failed. Okay? The other, actually, 3 out of 4 of them, the isolator had failed. Okay? So this is something that if you're going to keep this coach long term, and you have the ability, and you buy the tools, and you get the parts that you saw in the previous videos and things like that, all right? There's nothing to stop you at all from putting a one-wire alternator on, and you saw me do it, okay? All right, so moving on from there, this machine, after a serious wash job, like I said, I used my little portable pressure washer and blew off all the Florida fungus. But it was a beautiful machine. It has, and you can pull the picture up later. It's got a zip de-awning, and it has a window awning on the other side. It's got Ocean Atlantic, Mark Finke, his first pull of the visor. And when I say pull, each time that a copy is made, you lose degradation. This is one of the first pulls. I know because I put it on. Of course, aluminum wheels. Exterior, he already replaced the front roof air with a low profile air conditioner. So it was a really good looking machine. And all the way there, we had a great time. We showed up. Boy, these things got way out of whack here. I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's talk about the performance of this thing. Now, we drove it 1,000 miles. Been sitting for 3 years. It's carbureted, okay? Had one of my motors in it. It was a flat tappet, I believe. Yeah, but it was our cam profile. and it had a rebuilt transmission. My guess is it was one of Manny's, because that's who I used for decades. He had a quad bag system on it. Okay, now how did it perform? When you pull the picture up and you look at this, you see it? Just under 40 psi oil pressure, 14.1 psi. 14.1 volts DC of output. It already charged up that night. It was like running about 13.6 in the morning. When we woke up and I started looking at it again, it was 14.1. This thing says I'm doing 69 miles an hour. It is actually 10 miles an hour fast. This is a cable-driven speedometer that Mac used many years ago. This coach has a gear in it. I'm guessing a 355, but it might be a 370 if we did the math, because we're at 60 miles an hour. We're doing 3,200 RPM. That almost sounds like a 370. Okay. You look over here, water temperature, it says just under 220, and it's odd the way this gauge is. It's 180 and then 220, and it'll hug the other side, which normal operating temperature is going to be 110 degrees above your thermostat. We run 180 degree thermostat, so I'm not unusual to see 190 or 200 degrees. All right. You want to check your radiator cap to be sure it's 10 pounds or under, somewhere around there. New cars take 18 and 20 psi caps. All right, you don't want that. Your system is not designed for that. So you want something 10 pounds or under. Vacuum. This is the exciting one. If you look at the top right, the vacuum, I'm sitting at about a little under 15 inches vacuum at 60 miles an hour going flat. That motor's running really good. What you wanted that vacuum gauge to show you is when you're idling in park, okay, AC off, you should have about 18 and a half inches. And when I say about, it depends on what cam's in it, depends on how much compression, blah, 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 several things, okay? But 18 and a half, it's going to be around there. Now, if your needle goes like this, you got a valve issue. But if it just floats back and forth a little bit, that's just fine. I had a question the other day about that. So that's just fine if it floats back and forth a little bit. But a nervous needle, you've got some valve issues. All right. So the higher the number, think of it this way. You got the butterfly and the carburetor. The higher the number in vacuum, inches, not pounds, it's inches. The higher the number of inches, the less that carburetor is open, the less air it sucks. You know, when you pull it back, it goes fast. When it goes like that, it opens up. When it idles, it's very closed. It's not using much fuel. So the higher the vacuum that you can keep at the speed you want to go, you're saving gas. All right. So generally speaking, if you can keep above 10 inches of vacuum at 60 miles an hour, you're doing pretty good. Well, I was in excess of 15 inches of vacuum. So it was, what that means is the motor wasn't laboring as much. It was a wonderful thing. It really was. As far as mechanically running, that motorhome was awesome. Now, as far as the drivability of it, if you look at this picture closely, I've got my thumb and forefinger on the wheel. Okay, my arm is rested on the rest, and I'm letting the motorhome go. Guys, this is a lesson. This is one that it took a while, and I still don't think they're totally satisfied, but they even said, wow, this thing sure does run a lot smoother when you're driving it. I don't know what to tell you guys, but what you've got to do, think of it like you're driving a boat, a motorboat. And you don't steer a motorboat. You shoot at where you're going and let it go. because there's not going to be much in between. There's just going to be straight water. You follow? So you just point it to the shore, and if it gets off a little bit, you'll correct it a little while, and it'll get back here. So you don't want to run with it. You just want to let it go and just correct it. That's what I was doing here. You sit back, you let it go, and you just correct it. You'd be surprised. It's part of the reason I went with him. Okay? So if you just bought one of these things, you say, man, this thing handles terribly. All right? There's a series of things. First, you stand next to your front wheel and you mark the top of the body side molding on your waist. Okay? Mark it on your waist. Walk to the back wheels, right between the two back wheels, and see where the top of that molding is, where your mark is. The back of your motorhome should be 1.5 to 2 inches lower in the back than the front. You follow? Now, it stands to reason to jack it up, it's going to ride better. No, no, no. That makes it like a shopping cart in the grocery store. It'll go around the curves real easy, right? Don't let it go in the parking lot. You don't know where it's going to go, because that has negative casting. The lower you drop the back of this motorhome until it throws sparks, the better steer head or straight head it has. So don't jack it up. If anything, if you're going to stay in town and you only pick one level, then just put it level or a little bit high, and just be careful. Just pay attention. But proper ride height, best steering available is 1.5 to 2 inch rake to the back. That's a really important thing to start with. You say my alignment's terrible all over the road, start with that. Is your ride height set right? Okay? These are some of the things that I was teaching John and Bob about how to drive the thing, what's expected. Now, here's a couple of things. I wanted some little nuggets, right? Say you're going to go into your dash. Okay? You're going to go into your dash. You want to get into the back of your dash. Okay? And if you look right there, you can see the back of the dash is kind of pulled back a little bit. There's a screw that holds that in normally. There's one on this side, on the left side, and there's one on the other side too. So check to see if this one's in there or not. Take it out. Check to see if this one is in there or not, and take it out. Now, take your fingers and dig right down to the edge of that and lift up. Push up real carefully. Now, this coach, I had covered the back vinyl, call it the donut. I had re-vinyled the thing. Okay, so it was stuck down a little bit. Okay, but just pull up slowly, it'll pop up. Now, this panel, this back panel, originally was about 1 inch, 1.5 inches thick, right there. And it went all over here and came down. Well, that made it really, really difficult to get out. You see what I mean? So, decades ago, I took an air saw and I cut out. I left enough where you wouldn't see it, but I cut that out right there so it'll slip right out. Okay? So, all you ranch hands, I should be able to pull the back cap, the back cover off your dash and pop right into it, right? So that's a little something to check out. I'll tell you another one. You guys that have 77s and 78s, the glove box door, it's a plastic door, and it flops down to reveal the fuse box right there, right? Now, there's a cable that runs down, and there's a screw right there. Just a little wire cable holds that. If you want to open it any further, you got to take the screw out and drop it all the way down. Let me show you one. Now, right now, what I did is I replaced that cable with a piece of fuzzy Velcro strap. And the fuzzy Velcro strap is holds down and stuck on. There's sticky Velcro on the back side of the glove box, right there, inside the glove box on the bottom, right there. So you just stuck it on there. And let's see. Now all you've got to do is pull the Velcro off, and you can go to any level you want, all the way down. Take the Velcro off completely, or pull it up and set it at whatever that's off, whatever level you want it to be. Okay, does that make sense? It's a silly one, but this is something I'd done on his years, decades ago, and I forgot about it until I was over there looking at his, and these are some things that we added. Now, we came from essentially Orlando all the way here. The pictures below, with this configuration under the passenger front hood. In other words, it had an isolator. We had a battery boost switch. Now, when I left Orlando, if you remember, I put in a one-wire alternator. And the question was, well, what do you need to do to modify to put in a one-wire alternator? Now, what is a one-wire alternator? Basically, a one-wire alternator does not need the connector that plugs into the side. It does not need that. It excites itself. So all you got to do is spin it up and mix power. It's a wonderful thing. But it also cuts off that nichrome wire circuit that everybody wants to swear is good, bad, and indifferent. I just want to turn it off. So one-wire alternator, talk to your starter rebuilder, can build you one. All I did was unplug the two-wire connector, held it back. You may want to leave it on there if you're somewhere in lower Lompoc and you have to plug one in, then you could, but you don't need it. So took that off, took the alternator out, had it rewired, put it back in, and hooked up the single red wire on the alternator. That's it. And then on the battery isolator, if you want to look up in the corner, this battery isolator, the center wire on that isolator is the alternator output. Okay. One of the top or the bottom wire, one of them goes to the vehicle battery positive, and the other one goes to the living area. Now, what I did was nothing more than to take the wire that goes to the vehicle battery positive, take it off of the top right here, and run it to the center one where the alternator is. Boom. Right there is where everything will get its power. Because a one-wire alternator differs from the ones we have in that the alternator needs to see your battery all the time. Now, an isolator blocks that, so it won't work. So all I did is bypass the isolator, and we went all the way to Oakton, Virginia. All right. But now, after I got there, I didn't want to leave him with a known issue with the one-wire alternator and all this. So I wanted to install, after we got up there, the Simlac ACR 160. You say, well, what's that? Well, if let me dispel anybody's knowledge at all as to what an ACR 160 is. That. Okay? Now, what it does, it will bypass your boost solenoid. No need for that. You do not need your battery isolator, which drops current to your battery. Don't need that. And it, again, gets rid of the alternator light circuit. So it does so many things. So many things. Right? So, when I got finished with his system, this is what he had. Here's your ACR 160. This right-hand side is everything on the right side of your boost solenoid. The left side is everything on the left side of the boost solenoid. This wire here was the orange wire that triggered the boost solenoid. Here's your black wire right there. That's your ground wire. And it works. These two switches, this is the engine electrical system on-off switch. Now this is something I'd always put in, and I like it. It's like belts and suspenders, a second way. What this does is mechanically turns the switch, ties those two together. If anything ever happens to anything, this will allow me to tie them both together. Dig it? That's what all this was. And when I left him, this is what he had in his coach. Right? Now the other side, the driver's side, all these wires hanging out. Well, there have been 50 years of good intentions in this coach. And some real good ones. Some of them were my intentions. But there are several trigger wires that I do not know what they are. I do not have time. Now, Brother Bob is very, very accomplished. We had a wonderful time working together. But I told him, I gave him all the tools to trace down the wires of where they're going, because they were long enough to go to the other side, which means somebody had them hooked up to the engine electrical system, which means it either should be there or it shouldn't be there. So every one of those needs to be traced, known what they are, and labeled, and then from then on everybody will know. I'll bet you at some time the previous owner did have all that stuff written down. I don't know if you saw in the picture here. Where is it? Well, of all the good things I'm showing you, yes, this is the forward cabinet. It's got wood rot in it. Obviously, there has been some past leaks. It was dry, and I hit it with a pressure washer like crazy. So my guess is that leak is something that is old, and my guess is something that's old, and it was up in here somewhere. But what they did is they pulled it out right away. They're going to take it down to their cabinet shop and have the new patterns made. And as they go through the coach, if they find any cabinets that are worn or water rotted or anything like that, they'll have a pattern. Because actually, the cabinets, if you think, well, take a tape measure to them. If you took the 2 bedroom cabinets out and bolted them together, they would fit exactly over the large window. It's exactly the same width. Okay, see what I'm saying here? So it's the same cabinet except one's longer than the other. Now the galley cabinet, it's its own length. But think about it. They had 3 cabinets they could put in 5 different places. Right? So they did a modular design on the original cabinet. So that's the way that a GM floor plan is set up. They're going to pull that one cabinet out and give it to their cabinet maker. They can do the patterns, and they can rebuild any cabinet they want. Make sense? Well, I had a fantastic time, and as it's all over, I say I'm fighting my fears and the anxiety and all that of driving something that's 1, 50 years old, 2, 1,000 miles, 3, been sitting for 3 years. I mean, like what could go wrong, right? It's a pretty exhausting thing to do. And when it's over, you really have a sigh of relief. You really have a lot of release. And you say, but that morning, John took me to the airport, 3-hour layover in Dulles. Why? Because the air traffic controllers in Orlando could not handle the load of people coming in. Wow. a little bit of stress there too. So I couldn't let it go until I got all the way home and got back to my ranch here, got into my building. I'm just very excited about it. That was a wonderful trip, and it's possible we have another one planned for next month. We'll see. I'm not really sure. Look, thanks for following me. You guys that are following me on a weekly basis, this will mean something. You other guys, pick a couple of the nuggets out of there, like the glove box thing and some other stuff that might be useful to you. At least I hope so. All right. Give me a call. Leave me a comment. Let me know some other things you'd like to see. We'll see you next time.